Hello, Nancy. I've really enjoyed your presence in class. I like watching the development of your branding suite and your unique logo. This will be some final feedback for you, mostly on week 7, but I'll also address the 8-1 reflection, which you got in so early. Thank you for that. It's great, your website. A couple things that I noticed right off the bat. It's super that you've got your own domain name, and it looks like you've been thinking about that for a while. This also looks like your bootstrap that you did in the previous web class, and nicely organized. You might want to beef up somehow the navigation bar at the top. But at any rate, really nice applications of your logo. You've made some desirable objects here. The tote bag, which could be, well, any number of these could be a leave behind, and probably could be printed fairly economically. All the refinements and your branding suite is, really consistent across all medias. I like this simulation of what your website looks like on a computer screen, um, and it's clear, that this is all from the same designer. In terms of, let's see what you've got here. You've got your branding suite in this section, Graphic Design Studio. Yeah, okay, so that's good. And here, oh, those are the coasters that came out so nicely. Thank you for giving me the names of the typefaces. I see that it's called Franklin uh, Caslon. Was that right? This sort of rusticated Caslon. It goes well with the engraving. The engraving, though, however, is a little bit more vector-ish, in its cleanliness, I think, than the type. I'm not suggesting that you rusticate the image of the bird, but just know that there is a subtle textural difference between the letter forms, these streaks, these sort of marks, I guess, and the vector nature of the illustration. It's really small, and I don't suggest you beat up the bird image, but it's a nice, pleasant contrast. I'm just noting the difference, and it's a subtle one. Let's see, what else are you? Wow, you've really got this thing fleshed out, it looks like. Are these felt? Really interesting. I've never seen boots made out of felt like that. They look very comfortable. Is this all your work, too? As you notice, the images are coming in fairly slowly. That suggests to me that they're large. Bandwidth is still something to consider. Think about ways that you can compress these so that they download quicker, but they don't lose quality. It's always a conundrum, I think, in web design is download speed still, even though most of us have high speed internet, it's for some, it's still a slow download process. So something to consider to make your website more accessible. Nancy, I think in your case, it's really nice to see your face. There's other students in the class that, for example, I don't know if you noticed, but there are two students that work for the military, and one of them told me that they had to be careful about what they posted in social media. So uh, personal images like this, portraits, were discouraged because of their respective fields. Now, I think in your case, you're running a fiber art studio or intend to. So I think this is perfectly appropriate. It gives us some context for the artist. And I like your digital resume too. I like these infographics. They're somewhat subjective. I mean, how do you evaluate yourself, say, on your Photoshop skills? How do you determine that you're at like 80%? Well, I guess there are tutorials that measure how far you come along in them. But it is kind of subjective. You might want to ask an instructor or something to evaluate yourself, just to make sure that you don't have any blind spots. But eventually ultimately that's what resumes are about, is sort of self-evaluation, self-editing, and so forth. I like your attention to detail in typography. It's not so easy to get all this stuff to line up using CSS and HTML, so I really do appreciate that. I like the thumbnails. Once again, they're taking a little bit of time to download. I better check my connection because that seems awfully slow. But this is a very complete digital resume. And let's see what happens when I click this. There's another version, I think. Ah, yes. No, yeah, I can download it. Wonder how that works. Really nice, though, that you give them the option and that the HTML version of it presumably looks very much like the print. That is very difficult. I laud you for that accomplishment. It's great. You follow the rubric prompt perfectly. I'm glad that you you converted all of your logo to vector file format. Uh, that rusticated type doesn't look like you could do that, but isn't it amazing how vectors can describe even shades of gray? So it doesn't have to be black or white. And it looks like you learned that, or you knew that already. Your other advice that you logged, from Tyler, or I'm sorry that I dominate the conversation, but I do try to be generous with feedback. I mean, in terms of volume. Um, Looks like you've got social media selection. Okay, so I'll take a look at this. I'm glad that you noted it, and I'll go back to 6.2 to make sure that that's been graded. Good job on your feedback log. Let's take a look at your final. Okay, so you got Ty or Tynesha. Yeah, I liked her bright navy very much, and I too, like you, I prefer the Anchor logo, which is right here. You noted that. This, I believe, is a mini portfolio. If you'd gone back, I think, to week 6.2, her leave behind has changed. She made a lot of progress in the last, say, 10 days, and it looks like you've noted that. But it's always worth asking questions. Um, I think Ty needed, as much as anything, I think she needed captions on these, just so that we knew what we were looking at. But in any case, you've taken the time to embed images, to note things. Here, for example, you said, "What are you selling?" And I wanted the same thing too. Ty, I think, was a little scattered. She had like 3 logos going, including the Tyson Trell. And I think you've encouraged her to pare it down to one, and you've stated your preference. So that's all very useful advice to her. Nancy, moving forward, consider contacting me through LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever your preferred social platform is. It'd be nice to follow each other. Good luck.